So in that last example, we uncovered a way to get multi-touch information from just standard MIDI messages. So I showed a basic example of that was similar to other ones, but this one I wanted to show a project that I did that used that same principle, and because I needed like the high-speed response that MIDI would give me, but I really wanted that sort of XYZ multi-touch surface. This was a demo I did for CES and for NAMM, and it just sort of gave people an opportunity to experience multi-touch, multi-pressure without really thinking about making music. So it's sort of a music remixer. So with this, we worked with one of our artists we've worked with on several things, Nate Hendricks. He's an Oakland-based producer. He provided us a bunch of stems, but this is all his music, so I'm not putting it in the GitHub repo. So this is really kind of an example more than something that you can immediately access, though the patch is there and you can load your own stems. I have a selection of stems from a thing that I did just to test it out. But yeah, Nate is awesome, trillionairehendricks.com. Go take a look and check out his SoundCloud. He makes a lot of really great music. He plays like every instrument. I don't know how he does it. All right, so let's take a look at the patch here. So this is all very colorful. And in a way I've sort of like, recreated Ableton Live in a sense. I have these little sound file players up here, and each one is sort of a track. So I have 3 scenes and then multiple tracks on each scene. And what I'm able to do is use the morph to mix all those. So let's take a listen. And I'll show you the interface too. I think that's actually kind of descriptive here. Go to the Song Explorer, and I believe it's not in here. No. Media. Okay, cool. So this is what the interface that I put on top of the morph for people to experience. So it gives you an idea of what the gestures do and then how you move around. So one finger, you can glide around or tap to mix parts. And 2 fingers, I can add pressure and a filter effect. And 3 fingers, I can add a reverse effect. And then 5 fingers, I can tap to go to the next section. So it's kind of a novel interface for remixing music, and let's take a look at how that works in the context of Max. So you can see really the crux of what I'm doing here. When I move around, you see all those sliders moving. You also see in the upper right here this interesting object, and this is the nodes object. And this sort of allows me to navigate through different presets. You can see my XY is kind of messed up here. And then it also allows me to crossfade between different preset states. And what those preset states are doing is just setting mix levels. So I went through and used my mixer here to create sort of a desired state of the song, and then just save that to a preset, and did that for each one. So yeah, it's a good amount of work, just like you would do for any other sort of like mixing project. Let's take a look at what this patch looks like. So again, I'm using that MIDI information that we did in the previous example. So I'm creating the touch lists and getting sort of that information into a list for the X, Y, Z and pressure. And then doing that for really just a single thing, and then sending that to the pattern storage, which is what allows me to interpolate between all those mixer settings for the particular track. And then for being able to do these different gestures, I use that contact count that I showed you before. And so the contact count can, when I get 5, it's going to sort of change my scene here. So that just loads a different scene in these little playback things, playback objects. And let's see, the touch list, we're also using the second contact. So I'm not using, notice I'm not using contact count for doing these 2 and 3 things. I'm just using the second contact. Why make it complicated? So I'm taking the touch list here. Oops, that's smaller. I'm taking the touch list and looking for the second touch and getting the pressure value from it, and then applying that to a filter, to the whole thing, like it's the stereo filter, and on the master output. And then I also have this Flipper VST, which is a free VST from soundhack.com, and that gives me that reverse. A lot of times there's no need to program in Max because somebody's probably done a VST that does what you want. So yeah, doing that cool reverse thing, I didn't have to patch it up, I just dropped in a VST. And for people who are interested in the new MC, the multi-channel feature in Max 8, you'll see that I make use some of that. So that made this patch really quite possible. Otherwise it would have been a huge mess to patch. So yeah, key components here are getting the multi-touch information from MIDI, from the morph, and then using that to navigate the presets using the nodes object. And you can see again these touch lists, I'm taking that touch list from and just applying it to this particular thing, and then using that to recall stuff from pattern storage, which saves presets. And the other key concept is being able to separate my 2 and 3 contacts and be able to use those in an intelligent and interesting way. So yeah, I really like that patch because it's kind of consumer oriented and really lets you explore a totally different side of MIDI control than you could with anything else. So that is the final multi-touch example, and I hope you have found these useful. Let me talk to you directly. And let's see. So yeah, so thanks a lot for joining us. I hope you have posted questions because I'm happy to answer them. All of these things, all of these examples are available on GitHub for you to pull apart, and if you mess it up, you can then just get it from GitHub again. So there's really a great opportunity to learn about interaction, learn about working with Max, and doing video and audio. So in the next series, hopefully in the next 2 or 3 weeks, I'm going to be doing the next sort of facet of this, because we've seen taking the individual fingers and getting individual contact information. There's another object called JIT Stencil that actually gives you just an image of all of the stuff that's happening on the morph. So it's just a kind of a grayscale image, a heat map, if you will. And I'll show how we can apply that to things in jitter and audio things, and you can do some really, again, some really interesting, unique ways of interacting with sound and video that you just can't do with anything else. So super excited about this stuff. Max is awesome. The morph is awesome. Hope you dig in. Hope you get into it. Thanks for joining us.